during the pandemic, I was just like, all right, it's time to make this change. It's time to really invest in yourself, like moving forward, just make sure that I could just create my own waves, do what I love. I started reading a lot of books like Atomic Habits and just not giving a, F-bomb and all of that. And just, just boundaries. And I just realized that I was such a people pleaser that I wasn't pleasing myself, So it's
Mhm.
like, it was that kind of time during the pandemic to be like, all right, let's turn in and see what you got.
Bringin It Backwards.
Dave, love it, man.
There
I
you go.
appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I had a bit of a late night. I'm suffering from a bit of a aircon cold. Like when I travel, I
Hmm.
usually like end up getting some sort of like cold at the
Oh
end of
man, I'm
it.
sorry.
But I'm covering, so it's all good. Getting back to it.
That's good. Yeah, I had an interview that ran a little bit over last time, so or
Oh,
right before, so that's why I was a second late. Sorry about that.
bro, where are you based?
Nashville.
Oh, okay. I'm yet to go over there, man.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
originally from San Diego, and then I moved here like almost 4 years ago now, three and a half
Okay,
years
okay,
ago.
okay, okay. No. Well, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, thanks for doing this. I'm really excited to get your story, man. You've worked
Oh,
with a ton of big artists. I love the records that you put out recently.
awesome. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah,
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's a quick journey.
cool, dude. Well, let's hear about it. So you were born in London?
Yeah, I was born in South London, Peckham. Well, I'm actually from what's the area? Kennington. I was born and raised in Kennington, and then
Okay,
I moved to Peckham, which is still South London. So yeah, I'm a South London boy.
right on. And do you come from a musical family or like creative household or?
No, it's kind of like church. I was
Okay,
brought up, yeah, it's kind of
brought up
that
in
same
church.
that same church story, like we was in church and I saw the musicians and I was like excited by the way they could play and stuff like that. And eventually my mum just put me in to learn piano. So
Oh, okay. So you
yeah.
started off on piano. At what age?
Yeah.
How old were you when you started playing piano?
I started playing piano around 5.
Wow.
Before Yeah, we moved into a new house in when I was 5, and they just left the upright piano in the house. And so my brother said one day they could just hear someone tinkling on the piano, and they walked in the room, and it was me. So, so they
So
were
no one
like,
else, it just whoever owned the house before just left it, and then
"Yeah,
no one else cared to play, so you just went in there and were curious.
yeah." There was a TV show called EastEnders on in England, and it was a really easy melody line to play. It was like ABC almost. So it's just one of those things that I just did, and I just like learned how to play it. It's just like very easy.
Wow. Are you
Yeah.
like one of those people that are perfect pitch? Like you could just listen to it and
Nah,
play it? Oh,
nah.
okay.
Well, I can learn music by ear for sure.
But not in like, oh, I hear that's just like a E or
Nah,
whatever.
nah, nah,
Yeah,
nah, nah.
okay.
I can hear if it's off though, like if it's like out of tune, I'll be like, get you. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
got
But
you that.
yeah. But nah, I'm not perfect pitch. I respect everyone that is perfect pitch though.
I've
That's
had a
an
couple
amazing
people
gift.
on, and it's yeah, what a gift. But also kind
Yes.
of a curse too, from what I heard. Like somebody that had on that was talking about like the bell, like the school bell in between classes, like the
Yeah.
ding, like it was not like it was like flat, like
Oh my
wasn't in like
gosh.
a yeah, and it would just drive them like crazy.
Yeah,
Like oh my
yeah,
gosh, like it's not in the right tune or
yeah.
whatever, which is
One of my
funny.
boys can hear a sneeze.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
So
that sneezes out of tune. You're like,
that's
oh.
yeah, so but yeah, no, I'm not perfect pitch, but I'm as close to it as I can be.
No, that's amazing. So you
Yeah.
started off piano at 5, and did you continue doing that like for a long time, like throughout your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had piano lessons like around 6, and then I went to just go through the grades like everybody does, like you start grade 1, step 2, step 3, then grade 1, grade 2. And it
Mhm.
goes up to like 8, and I went up to about 6. I passed 6, and then I stopped at 7 because I just couldn't read. I literally was like, could not read music. So I just was copying, playing by ear again. My piano teacher. So every time I'd be like, I don't quite get this bit, and she'd play, and I'd be like, locked. Thank you.
Okay. You
So I
just
really,
listen to her like what, and then pick it up from there instead of just
yeah,
having her put the sheet music in front of you, and you're just like, okay, here it
exactly.
goes.
Even
Got
when
it.
she turned the page, I would just be like, that's where I turned the page, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like scammed my way through basically.
That's
But
hilarious.
but yeah, it was just you know, I did get a scholarship at like 13, just because, you know, the playing ability, it was always like the sight reading that would help,
Mhm.
that would stop me from getting the highest marks,
Oh,
basically.
right.
Like I said, because I couldn't read. But yeah, so I basically ended up going to I got a sponsorship when I was 13 to
Mhm.
go to a Royal College of Music.
Wow.
And it just was like so much. I just was not ready. Like, you know, it was a 2-hour journey every Saturday. And I was like 13. So it's like, 2 hours there, 2 hours back.
Yeah.
And it was so intense. I just was not ready for it. Like, it was actually it wasn't even classical, it was more jazz. So I was changing genres as well. And I was just overwhelmed. So I just ended up like only staying for like 6 months. And then I just quit, basically. And then that was the end of that, basically.
Oh, wow. And then so
Yeah.
you just quit after that, and then what, did you continue to pursue music in a way, or no?
Yeah, no, not really. To be fair, after I kind of stopped that, I was so happy to have some freedom to just not like have school 6 days a week, or, you know, like, and just like took a break and just enjoyed listening to music. And it wasn't until like maybe my, you know, mid-teens, like 16, 17, I met some other friends that were musicians, and we was just like, oh, well, I was like, I can play. You know, I play, and they were like, well, look, come and join us. And then so I started like playing around with certain bands and stuff in the church community. And then, you know, just one day I just got a call to play for this band called All Saints. No, Morrison.
Mm.
And I was 17, and I just was like, I don't even have no equipment. And these guys that I was just working with, they were just like, yeah, just go and do it. So that's when I had my first gig with Mark Morrison at 17. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
then how long did you play with him for?
I must have played with him like maybe 3 times. It
Okay.
wasn't like for long.
Okay.
And and then basically All Saints, the tour with All Saints came in straight after that. So that's when the live performance world started around 17, 18.
So yeah, so you went from like just getting this call to now you're like touring full time,
Yeah,
sounds like. Wow.
well, I did have a job at 17. I was in IT. I was doing like peripheral cleaning. So it's like we'd go into like all these big offices like Morgan Stanley and Chase Manhattan at the time, and like basically just clean their computers, like open it up. I'd learn what everything was in the computer. So then from that, I learned how to do first line support in computing. And so I had a
Wow.
job. I basically had a job. But when I got the call, I asked my boss if I can go on this tour. And he's like, as long as me and my family can get tickets to come to the show,
You're like, done.
done. So I was like, all right, cool. So I basically went off and did the All Saints tour. And after that, you know, I went back to work. And that
Mhm.
was very challenging because I'd literally toured the world. I'd started waking up at 1 in the afternoon and just like having a hotel, like, you know, just a different lifestyle.
Yeah, then
And
now
just
you're back to the grind of the
then
9 to 5 or whatever.
oh man, I was holding on the train, like getting up in the morning at 6:30, going on the train. I was just like, oh God, this just isn't for me. And then I got offered another tour about 4 months later with this band called Blue. They're a
Okay.
boy band from the UK. And I asked my boss again, and he was like, I don't know if we can't give you another 6 months off. So I just made the decision to be like, let's try this music career. And that was around like the 19 kind of age where I was like, no more computing. Let's go straight
Wow,
into
let's just do
music.
music.
Yeah.
Were
Yeah.
you writing music at the time? Because I know obviously you you've produced for a lot of people, write for a lot of people. You've got a Grammy
Yeah,
nomination again, this year,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
amazing. Like,
yeah.
were
It's
those all
been great.
skills that you were already starting to work on at that age, or did that come later?
Yeah, so basically, when I started with All Saints, it's when I first learned about like sound checking and like, you got to check your instruments and make sure that it's all good. And I never knew what to play during sound check. I just was like, play anything, like tinkle.
Mhm.
And one of All Saints producers, his name's KG, used to always come up to me after and be like, what was that you play? Like, what song is that? And I was just like, it's just tinkling. And
Mhm.
he's like, you should come into the studio. And so, like, when we finished tour, I went to the studio with him, and he kind of just taught me how not to play so much, but how to kind of play in the pocket and like how to make the songs instead of just like being a musician and just tinkling all over the place. And so he kind of definitely schooled me in how to like songwrite. So I was with KG for probably like 3 years. Like just every artist that came in, I would
Oh,
just be
wow.
either on keys or just learning how to songwrite. But I just didn't know the business. So I didn't know how to get money or where the money was coming from. And so like the live world just seemed more realistic to pay my bills, like
Yeah, you could
do
see, okay, if I play this show tonight, then we're gonna
I
get
get
paid this much money at the end of the night.
well, hopefully by the end of the night, if not
Yeah,
a
or
month
whenever.
later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If all goes to plan, we're getting paid when we're done with the show. But
Right.
yeah, with the production and everything, you're like, okay, we're writing these songs, but then what?
Yeah.
They're
And
just songs.
I didn't even understand splits. I didn't know where the percentage of the splits the payments from that would come from. I just didn't have no knowledge of the business at like early 20s. So I went back on the road basically. I went back on the road, started playing with like Estelle, Robert Palmer, Cindy Lauper, like a bunch of like different like Jasmine Sullivan, Kelly Rowland, The Dream, and all of these other kind
That's
of
crazy.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going on the road, like literally after one show, I'd be like running to another rehearsal to go and do another show or fly in, just like it got a bit hectic to a point where I was just like, I can't do it, but I can get someone else to do it. And then, like I started getting a lot of calls. So I started just calling a lot of people to do work. And then I was like, hey, this sounds like an agency. I'm doing
Mm,
agency work here.
yeah.
So I did. I started an agency and it was based between London, New York, and LA.
Wow. So
Which
you would be the person they would call and say, we need a keyboard player. We need
yeah,
this person on
yeah,
this tour.
exactly. So I had a lot of artists from the US come into the UK at the time. And because I'd been on the scene for so long, it was like cool.
Mhm.
At the time, I was going by Steve Octave, which is like my full name,
Yeah.
or Octave. It would be like one of the two, Steve Octave or Octave.
Okay.
So I get a lot of these calls, and then I would just source bands. I just started sourcing a lot of bands together. Then I started sourcing engineers. Then I started sourcing dancers, and I started sourcing creative directors. And it just became like a one-stop shop. Like if you needed a live show,
You had
I'll sort it
everybody.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have everyone. And then like I moved to New York as well. So when I moved to New York, it was even easier because everyone from the UK was coming to New York to do all of the shows, like the TV shows, the Good Morning Americas or
Mm.
David Letterman at the time. And I had a load of New York musicians that I'd worked with. And so it'd be easy. Like, leave your musicians in England and we'll source everything here in New York. So that's really how the live music journey went, and just it just got easier for me to just source
Mhm.
bands instead of me playing everywhere because I started getting like really
Yeah,
tired,
burned out, I
yeah,
imagine,
and
right.
the planes and just time zones and even food. It's just like trying to find food that you kind of you know that you like. Because
Yeah, right.
different countries have different cultures and stuff. So it was challenging, but no, it was great. It ended up really great. Just being, I still source bands now. Like literally, like I get a call, I'll source a band and get it done. Like I just did James Vickery's from the UK. and he's about to release a project, and he's with Red Bull. So
Wow.
it's really great. So I still source bands. If you know, you know. It's not one of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things that like I just put out there. It's just like, if you need it, call me and I'll sort it out.
Wow. Okay. And
Yeah.
then so at what point do you start like writing with people, or when do you kind of get your first like, success outside of, putting bands or like helping people with this
Yeah.
live aspect of it?
Literally 2020, when the pandemic
Oh,
happened.
wow.
Yeah. So when the pandemic happened, I felt like the live scene was good, but I also felt like I hadn't left anything behind in terms of like I hadn't written or done anything that can outlast me.
Mhm.
Like it's like I just feel like everyone kind of should find their legacy, and I was
Yeah,
just trying
especially
to.
with the pandemic. I mean, that's where your whole career or operation was on pause, obviously, right? I mean,
On
if you're
it,
no one's you're not sourcing any talent to
nothing,
go play with anyone if no one's leaving their house.
nothing, and it really
Yeah.
made me realize, wow, if I don't work, I don't get paid, and I was just like, wow, this could happen again. A pandemic can happen again at any point, and it's like, how am I going to be financially? Will I like let myself just go down because I'm not getting any calls? So I had to figure out a way, just how to create my own wave. Like what can I do that I have within me already that can source finances whether you work or not. So
Mhm.
it's like writing. I love writing. And it's like it was more of a confidence thing. Like am I confident enough to really kind of LeBron James or Kobe Bryant like put in these hours and really go ham on this, and it was just a decision that I had to make. I was just like, all right, well, I'm not going to take on any more gigs. I'm going to keep all my time for myself. And I'm just going to, really just put in the hours. Like I would start with the 10,000 hours. I was like, listen, I need to at least have the basics of the 10,000 hours of me now, my
Mhm.
experience now, what I've learned. And so during the pandemic, I was just like, all right, it's time to make this change. It's time to really invest in yourself, like moving forward, just make sure that I can just create my own waves, do what I love. I started reading a lot of books like Atomic Habits and just not giving it, F-bomb and all of that. And just, just boundaries. And I just realized that I was such a people pleaser that I wasn't pleasing myself, So it's
Mhm.
like, it was that kind of time during the pandemic to be like, all right, let's turn in and see what you got, So,
Yeah.
and that's really what it was about. So ever since then, I started saying that I was a producer instead of just saying I was a musician. So if I'd met anybody or if I'd anything, I would just say I'm a producer, So it's don't call me to be a musician on your stuff. Don't call me that. Just I'm a producer. So I learned that just saying things like manifesting it and speaking it really works, So it's like I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna get Grammys. I'm gonna get nominations. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be, I'm going. I just really started using affirmations, and believing in them. And so, yeah, just during 2020, I was literally like doing, I want to say, minimum 10 to 16 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, literally getting up, working out, eating, getting at my desk, and just really putting in those hours.
And did you have what was like the first song or something that like hit for you that was like that you got like validation for, like, you know?
Um, what's so funny? The first, like, I was just making music, but I was making music solely for myself. Like, I was like, I'm gonna just build a body of work that is just mine. Like I like the sound. I can choose the instruments. I can it's just ownership. And so that's really the mentality of how I started writing. I didn't write with no artist in mind. I was just writing just how I felt and just using, just vibrations. And then, it was really just building confidence to press play to other people, like, and I didn't want to just press play to my friends because we all know our friends are gonna say that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're like, okay, and then
Yeah.
that's the end of it, right? You know?
Yeah, and I just didn't want to hear that. I wanted like I was being very honest in my music, and I just wanted to be surrounded around people that were honest about music too. Um, and so I would just play music to like randos, like whether they knew it's mine or not. I would just be like, I'm just gonna play some stuff, and like just over time, I guess the practice of just really getting your ideas together, because that's really what it is. I don't make songs for them to be the one. I make songs
Mhm.
just for the practice of it, just for it to. And when I get back to it, I'll be like, oh, this is great, but I actually just make it just to make.
Right.
And so, like I started playing a couple of people music that wasn't like necessarily in the live world or in that live scene. I just kind of just left that world completely. And just try to get in meetings or conversations with people and to see if I can press play on them. And like I guess like people, some of the people in the industry realize that there's a lady, Michelle Bell in particular. She just really took a liking to my my sound, and she just wanted to play it to everybody, and she was at Rock Nation at the time. She was like doing her thing. She had like all the greatest artists. So she just was like, you're up there with these artists, and like she was really like an ambassador for me, which was encouraging. And so I guess the first one would be with Masego. Like I had a song on my personal project that I was working on, and he heard that song and he wanted it for his project. It's called Polygamy.
Yeah.
On his project. And so, at the time, my project wasn't even near done. That was just like one of the first few songs that I'd done. And used to be like, you know what? He's already doing it. You got so much songs. Let him have that one. And, like, just keep building. So I gave him that song, and it went on the Studying Abroad project.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually me and Jack Dine, which is one of the producers that's worked with him before, we collaborated, and Masego heard that song and then jumped on that one as well. So it's and then we got in a session to do Bliss Abroad with Shalea after
Wow.
that. So that was really the first. That's when it really kind of. I was like, oh wow, my music is really like I got all these professionals in here now, like, and we're doing stuff to my music. So it kind of was like, okay, cool.
And that one
You
got
know,
a nomination as well, right? Right? Study
right.
abroad. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
like really the first, time that somebody took your song and everything, it like exploded.
Yeah. It was kind of confirmation as well. It was
Yeah.
just confirmation that, what, even if, like, because it didn't win, but just the fact that it's got acknowledgement, that the work has acknowledgement, it made me feel like, okay, cool, let's just keep going because you're just getting started.
Mhm.
So like now that you're getting this acknowledgement just from getting started, now just really go hard. So it really did. It made me go hard. I started doing like, 5 to like 7 songs a day. Like
Wow.
ideas, not full songs, but just ideas. Because what I tend to do is start ideas and then put them on the back burner. I'll do like maybe like 40, 50 ideas and just put them all on the back burner. And then one day what I'll do is just go back and listen to them, and I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. So I can work on this one. It's just my ADD won't allow me to stay on one song for too long. Like
Okay. Yeah.
I would just get frustrated and I'd just be like, so I just usually like spend like an hour, 2 hours, get a good idea up, swipe left, onto the next. So
I love it, man. And then you
yeah.
also have a song or Inwood Hill Park, which it has a nomination in this year, right?
Yeah, it was nominated last year, yeah, so I got it
Oh yeah,
again.
yeah, 24. Right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
last
yeah,
year's
yeah, yeah.
nomination. Sorry, I'm getting
That's so
things
good.
confused.
That's so
That's
good.
still
Well,
crazy. I mean,
maybe you're speaking it into existence.
I am. That's
Nominations
what I'm
are
trying to do. I do. Yeah.
nominations.
Yeah. Like how you said you did the affirmations. Yeah, I'm a producer. And then now look, you're
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
2025.
25, let's go, baby. Let's go.
But
I'm with
yeah,
it.
I mean, to get to be a part of that. I mean, that's so wild, right? I mean, to have
Okay.
those, yeah.
It's amazing because I wrote that one when I was in St. Lucia, because I moved to St. Lucia in September of 2020.
Hmm.
After I saw that account going like this, I was like, wow, it's time to get out of here. LA life, downtown LA.
Oh yeah.
Those prices were not for someone that's not getting any gigs. So I left. I moved to St. Lucia. My family are from St. Lucia.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have some like plots and stuff out there. So I decided to go out there, and I've never really actually lived with my parents or been around my parents as an adult. They left when I was 19 and moved to St. Lucia. So it was the first time getting to like even really sit with them as adults and just like, learning their story. So that was really amazing. But yeah, Inwood Hill was one of those ones that I think I just came back from the beach, and there's in St. Lucia. What I usually do is I usually wake up, do the morning stuff, hit the beach, get back home, and then get ready to work. But this particular day, Inwood Hill, I just started that with the bass, and it just felt like the kind of vibes that I was in that morning. I just felt like, I just had that feeling. So I just played. I literally wasn't even in the studio yet. I was in my front room, and I usually keep an instrument by my sofa. Anything,
Hmm.
whatever makes noise, just in case I have an idea. I always keep something right next to where I would be sitting. So I had my bass next to me, and I just picked it up and I started playing this thing. I ran to my studio, just across the way, ran to it and just plugged in and recorded it. And that was another one. I just got back to it. And I was like, I have one of my friends, Rascal, he's a producer out in Berlin,
Hmm.
amazing producer. So I sent it to him and I was like, yo, I think we could do something with this. And then he sent it back to me with a beat on it, because I just sent it with just the
The
bass.
bass
And
line,
when I
yeah.
got it, when I got it back, I was like,
That's awesome.
that's it. And then he basically messaged me like a couple of weeks later and said, yo, I think Black wants this record. And I
Dang.
was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
And you release Difference Now. That's the newest one, right?
yeah, yeah, that's
And
the
was
latest.
that, yeah, was that song? I think I was reading that started that during the pandemic as well, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Most of the songs I started were during that season. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a very, I'm sure for everybody, it was a very like uncertain season.
sure. Yeah.
So it's just like my only certainty was that I could play instruments and make music. That was all
Hmm.
I was sure of at that time. So that was just one of the records that I started the idea, and Stacey Barth, we met in like 2016, and she was in LA, and she literally we was just hanging out, and she was just like, to play some music, and I just literally played her this idea, and she started singing Difference Now immediately.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she
Oh,
didn't
you
even.
just had the instrumental because you have the
Yeah,
instrumental up online too, which is really rad. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like, like it's out there. Just have a listen, like
Uh-huh.
even when. But yeah, she's just so amazing. She just literally heard it, and I guess we were having a conversation before, just like how about life, and like you realize life lessons, and you realize, just things that are good for you and not good for you. And she was just like, yeah, I just know the difference now. And that's really where that came from. I know the difference between loving and between abundance and nothing. So it's just like, it's just facts. We're just really being honest in our music. And that's really all we can do. We're not like, we're writing for our people that will hear us. We're not
Mhm.
trying to like convert anybody. If you do what you're doing, that's good. But if you're on a frequency where you're open to hearing honesty and truth, this is where we at. So
I love it, man. Are you working on? I would imagine you probably have more stuff you're going to put out under your own like solo stuff.
definitely. That's really my main concern, honestly. Like working with other artists and stuff like that. That's cool, but ultimately, my goal is to, build my label where I can nurture and build artists that that I really like. You know what I'm saying? That I just feel like I'd love to help you. Like, here's a platform. I've done it because I had to do it so I can help you do it. Like, that's really what it's about. Like, there's a lot of producer artists out there, and we all have different reasons for doing it. Mine definitely is just so I can learn the process, that I can help others through it as well. So. And it's been great. I'm learning so much. I've only done 2 releases right now, but I'm looking forward to doing some live stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I play, so it's going to be great just playing my own music.
Yeah.
That is going to be like epic. And I just know that I'm going to really enjoy being creative in that kind of environment of like transitions as well. Because I can transition from one song to another. I can make it more of an experience instead of just stop and onto the next song. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to stuff like that for sure.
I love it, man. Well, I love what you're up to thus far. So I appreciate you doing this, Tave, doing this today.
Oh,
Thank you so much, man.
of course. It's a pleasure. My first
Yeah,
one.
really?
Yeah.
Your first interview?
First ever interview.
I love that. That's so cool. I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah,
You were
likewise.
great,
Thank you.
man.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have one more question for you then.
Go ahead.
I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Honesty. Like, I think tuning into you, your experience, your story, what you are about, what you want to be known for or about. I think just be transparent and honest in your music. Like, don't try and please anyone, because that's where you won't be consistent. Most artists and producers are consistent because they're honest to who they are. Like, people can copy them, but they will never know where they're going because they lead their own path. So it's just be honest in your sound and however you feel in the moment, and just tap into that. It's not about anyone else but yourself and what your story is.
Bring